to be funny, but the reason why y'all having this fight is because this is what happens when men want to be poly and they want to have two wives, one wife. I forget the guy's name. One wife. His wife was, I guess, Muslim or Arabic or something, and then Sarah was a Jewish lady, and he impregnate both of them. He impregnate the Jewish woman, and he impregnate the Muslim woman, and those children were brothers. And ever since then, those two brothers been fighting forever because they're like, oh, my mom is Muslim and your mom is Jewish, but we have the same father. And they just never liked each other. And that's why Israel and fucking Palestine are fighting till this day. That's exactly why.
Well, I think it's because the Muslim Palestinians have a belief system that causes them to be more violent than is reasonable. And then whenever you have
y'all are related and y'all fighting.
The Jews are getting attacked, whilst the Muslims are going on jihad. They have like a scimitar in hand. They're like, oh, let's kill these Jews. And then the Jews like try to not get killed. And then everyone in the world's like, oh my God, look at these two people fighting. Oh my God. Like you guys are like total retards. Like, imagine just this kid, every time he goes to school, gets a wedgie from a bully, and then like everyone, and then the principal's like, "Oh, you kids keep fighting with each other." Like, you guys are such dicks.
But you guys been fighting since thousands of years. You guys took a break, It's been thousands of years. This is not a new war. And the Bible says y'all been fighting before Christ came. Y'all been fighting, and the only way y'all gonna stop fighting is when God come down himself and stop this shit.
Well, unfortunately, God isn't real, so that's never going to happen. So we're going to keep fighting.
Not a Jew saying God isn't real.
Yeah, because the reason why Jews say that is because Jews are smarter on average than other populations, and so they are more likely to see through the bullshit of religion. What?
As an American citizen, I carry guns everywhere I go. Across state lines, I don't give a crap. I don't even look at the laws. And I may wind up in prison one day. I don't freaking know, but I don't care because I will not obey a law that violates my right to keep and bear arms. If you do not carry a gun as an American citizen every single day, everywhere you go, you are neglecting your duty as an American citizen. You are failing.
That's crazy. I never met
actually, I would go as far as to say one of your most important rights.
Yeah, do you think
so if you aren't carrying a gun,
in like a sort of like cage?
If you listen to this, look at yourself right now. If you are not carrying a gun,
so
you are not
you don't go to the synagogue.
I go to synagogue sometimes. I celebrated Passover.
But your God is Yeshiva. Yeah, Yeshiva, Jehovah, something.
No, I mean, my God isn't real because...
And then you don't celebrate Hanukkah?
Oh, I get the dreidel out, I get the menorah out.
You believe in God, Sam?
No, because I just don't think there's like a disembodied consciousness that can create the universe. I think the universe just is... I think it's just one big thing.
Your parents would slap the shit out of you if they were to hear that.
Well, they could try, but they're like in their late 70s, so I would just fucking block all their strikes easily. It would be like, block, block. It's like not gonna work, you know?
And then you'll lose track of them by throwing money on the ground.
Yeah, like boom. It's like instead of a smoke bomb, it's like a coin bomb, you know? And like that's how you escape from any different Jewish predicament you're in. You just throw your coin bomb down, and then it causes
it's like Borat when he was hiding from the Jews.
Just pandemonium in Tel Aviv, like, oh my God, there's coins everywhere.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, having Jewish friends is lit. Like, they always have money. I remember one time I told one of my besties, but she's Israeli. Israeli is still a Jew. And I was like, yeah, I'm kind of like, I'm gonna get money for my rent, but I'm kind of late on my rent. She goes in her trunk and pulls out
quotes in there that
bunch
are
of
quite
money. And
controversial.
she's
I
like,
know
yeah,
this
just I'm
surprised
gonna
you,
give
but
you
it's
a
the vice
loan
story.
and you're gonna pay me back. And I'm like, this fucking Jewish girl. I said, who takes
What do
money
you say
out
in
of their
this article
trunk?
that's got their head?
I'm telling you, they're crazy.
I think this is the one where I said retribution is an important component of justice. It serves as a powerful deterrent and it makes the victim's whole. So I am all about retribution. And I've said that very publicly for many, many months. And I take great joy in retribution right now because these are the same Democrats that went after pro-life Christian elderly people who were praying at abortion clinics and parents who were outraged by gender chaos in schools. You know, I mean, they went after you too, Steve, but you're a big boy. But when you're going after elderly pro-life Christians, 75-year-old Christians, and putting them in prison, and parents because their daughters are getting raped in high school bathrooms, they can go to hell, all of them.
And they've really singled out in this article the law firms and the universities, which we think both are fantastic. But give me, you have some quotes in there that are quite controversial. I know this is surprising given it's the Viceroy. What do you say in this article that's got their head?
Nazi fucking punk. What are you gonna do? Go fuck yourself. You on my fucking campus with that fucking hat on? Actually, get the fuck out of here. It's actually a public street. Get the fuck out of here. I don't care, you fucking Nazi. This is a public street. Get the fuck off my campus. I'm gonna walk you all the way to this fucking corner, you punk. You fucking understand me? Go ahead. Who are you? You fucking understand me? It doesn't fucking matter. You fucking Nazi punk. Get this fucking camera on my fucking face.
Or what?
Get this fucking camera on my face.
Or what?
Take your fucking fascist hat off.
Union like that?
Would your union like that? You see this?
I know every union guy in this town.
Get the fuck out of here.
I know.
Fucking supports unions, you fucking.
I know every union leader.
On your fucking Snapchat, what are you, 35? You fucking cocksucker.
I'm 35.
Take that fucking hat off. You understand me? Take it off. Take it
Okay.
off, you Nazi fucking bootlicker. Nazi fucking bootlicker. Don't be on my fucking campus with that Nazi fucking hat on. You fucking understand me, you cocksucker?
I'm loving this.
Look at this
This is
fucking
great.
Nazi. 47. This guy supports Trump. Has his fucking hat on. Look at this.
I
fucking
can't wait
Nazi.
till your foreman sees
Get
this.
the fuck out of here.
I can't wait.
You think they support you? You get the fuck out of here, you cocksucker. You're a fucking Nazi punk.
I'm a
Nazi
Nazi
fucking
punk.
punk. Yeah, you're a fucking Nazi punk. Is what
Okay.
you are.
Okay.
Take your gay fucking white gold Trump hat off.
Trump, 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 Trump. Guy tried to kick down this guy's door and kill them and rape his daughter. So he decided to blast that fucker, and he's outside dying in the fucking driveway crying. God, people are so stupid. It's unbelievable. God, Elon Musk. He has made the world of roasting, trolling, and revenge on these evil pieces of shit.
Power in the wall. Kicks him in the throat, kicks him in the face, stomps him on the head.
Dr. Australia, welcome back.
The women have to be wearing women garments and not wear pants and stuff. We're supposed to do that too, but we don't listen, and we're rebellious, and that's probably why we're not as blessed. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause y'all really strict with the Torah. Like, y'all really follow the rules of God. The 10 Commandments, all of that is still the same. Everything is the same. The only difference about Jewish and Christian is fucking Jesus Christ. That's the only time we're gonna fight. But other than that, we're practically cousins, to be honest.
You work at a fake hospital?
Be honest.
Shit. Is Clown House fake? Are people just pretending to be this stupid? Is that what's happening? I've been fooled.
Yeah, it is the same, but they believe in Solomon, just like we do. Y'all have Solomon, y'all have Abraham, y'all have everything the Bible has. Jesus Christ.
Nobody here is religious. I mean, nobody here is certainly.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like in the Torah and the Bible, it's laughable because when I read the Bible, I'm like, that's crazy. We have the same things.
Yeah, but when you tell Sam that like it's doesn't matter to him because he thinks they're both equally absurd.
Well, Sam will go back into his Jewish ways soon.
It's easy to.
He's going through a phase.
Have faith in something. Otherwise, you'd have to stare into the abyss.
I mean, the only Jewish ways that he's adopted is the bombing of Palestine.
I mean, I know. It's that part, and I get it. They just, I don't know. Jewish people never want to be civil. They always want to be a bully. Y'all always want to be a bully.
I don't want to be a bully.
Leave these Gaza people alone.
No, the Gaza people gotta stop blowing themselves up. Suicide terrorism, bro. If I was your next door neighbor and I was constantly blowing shit up, you wouldn't be like, oh, okay, bro, that's cool, bro.
I don't know. I think y'all started it first.
It's just a basic failure of empathy to see someone who's getting attacked and then be like, oh, just get over it, bro. That's not how you would feel.
So your people didn't start it first. Y'all didn't start it.
Yeah, correct. You didn't start it.
Such a liar.
What the fuck are you talking about? First off, the Jews have lived in that part of the world, in Judea, since like 1000 BC. So I was like, what's that one? Step two is like, yes, we made a country in 48 that all the Arab nations around attacked. We didn't start that shit.
No,
wait. Did you attack us?
No, Arad is right. The Jews did start it. Like they blew trumpets outside the city of Jericho for like 7 days straight. The walls came tumbling down. That's how it all began.
Shut up! Stop, yo. The saints are marching, and that's a song. You know, that's a Christian song. You are a clown.
You're Christian, Red?
Yeah. We're the neutral party.
Neutral.
Neutral to what?
Everybody, right?
We're the neutral party. We're trying to get Jews and Muslims together. We're trying to get. It's a chaos. It's chaos.
Yeah, but that's just one way of looking at things.
Yeah, the good news is that's not going to happen. It's in the DNA of these three religions.
That's why we're neutral.
It's in the DNA of these three religions to fight each other until the end of time. So enjoy the show.
It is a big show.
It's a bloody show. Like, this is ridiculous now.
Right, don't you think things are fucked up here too?
What, in America?
In the world, things that happen in the world, just, certain fucked up shit that happens.
Yeah, but it's human.
You could be born, you could be spawned.
What's with all the phones? I don't know. Why do people use phones all the time? They're doing something on them.
Jaguars, leopards, and go out that way, and you did nothing wrong.
I mean, nature versus.
Right, but I'm just saying it's ugly though, right? Like it can be.
Yeah, but it's like a dog. A dog is gonna do dog things, but the dog wasn't blessed with You see how we could with our knowledge and stuff like that. Like, we could stop it. Like, as human beings, we could stop all of this. We could stop the war. We could stop nonsense, but we just don't want to. So it's like,
can we though?
You can't. Nature is always gonna do its thing, but as human beings,
but what if nature,
like, come on now.
Out of nature,
come on,
came, those that will never learn?
Well, the human should put those people in a jail or some shit.
We do. We already do that. But yeah, it's like, it sucks. It seems unfair, man. So that's why people say, well, I like the experience on Earth. Like, it's great. I'm fortunate. I have my family, people I love in my life. But then I also acknowledge the ugly side. So it's kind of like more of a purgatory.
Well, I traveled, and all I can say is that out of all the countries, I feel like women and children are the safest in America. Because you're not getting married off at 8 years old to old men. You're not getting, you know what I'm saying? Like, the way they treat women. Like, there's women in Afghanistan and other places crying because they can't go to school because that's the law.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, America has its flaws, but if it comes to safety as a woman, I feel like you're safe in America because...
But there's less, like, I'd say, like, out on a limb, I'd wager that in Islam, there's maybe that's not even accurate to say, but at least they get the propaganda that says, oh, there's no pornography because it's forbidden, there's less scandalous shit going on over there. She just did. But am I right though? Am I right?
You're right. You also got more, which you gotta fight with pesticides.
So how do you feel about Islam in like a liberal, Western democracy? Meaning that like if you are anti-wokeism, I mean, isn't Islam the easy option, and thus why Andrew Tate, picks Islam, because it's just the easy version of philosophy and social desirable norms, which is essentially women are property and not political or they don't have major roles in society. They're just baby manufacturing plants and cooks.
Let's hear that base take. I'll answer, I guess. You see, there's some smart women out there in the world,
No, obviously. I'm just saying that Andrew Tate is like the poster boy of...
That their potential never becomes realized. That would be a sad thing. Because the mind is a terrible thing to waste. So now I don't think, like, Islam, like I said, I imagine, like, there's, like, less perversion, or that's the idea, or they're just deluding themselves, and repressing themselves. You see that shit come out in weird ways. But they should have autonomy. Women should have, obviously rights. But at the same time, if you give it to the liberalism you were speaking of, they take that to the extreme and they become like men. They become players. That is antithetical to a nuclear family, I guess, I suppose. But maybe that's just like a sort of a Western machination, really, like things have to be this way, Thinking maybe.
Yeah. Feminism has destroyed the stability in society. Feminism has destroyed the conservative values in society, and bad actors like Andrew Tate are filling into the vacuum because men have given up their role in society. And if you let feminism go rampant like it's doing today, it'll destroy every country one by one, until Islam takes over, because they are the only ones with kids. Nobody else is having kids. So
this is true. Until before feminism, like, you know, male Brahmin Hindus had it made, right? And these stupid feminists and like all these other like kinds of equality theorists, right, came along and ruined it for them. No, I feel your pain, Shiva. It's true.
yeah, I just agree.
They want to be dominated anyway.
I've read of female Buddhists who were radical feminists, and then they came to the realization that they're chronically angry, and so they realize it's a them problem. It's not a social problem. It's not a philosophical problem. It's a them problem. So I just wonder, like, how many feminists who are in their 20s, when they're in their 40s, childless, and have no children or no husband or no house, and maybe a mediocre career in nonprofit administration, you know, will they ever come to the realization that they were wrong in their way of thinking, that they're actually hyper political? I just wonder how many ever actually will. I don't know what the percentage is, but it's.
If only there was a way to like investigate and find out, right, you know, what the numbers would be, like some kind of, I don't know, statistical method. But that sort of thing sounds like a very woke approach to answering questions, right? Like empirical investigation. And so we're not going to pursue that any further.
Actually, there's a very good study from, what is JP Morgan, where they have predicted that 40% of women in the West are going to be unmarried and childless at the age of, 40 or 30 by the year 2030. So, which means almost half the population of women in the West will be childless and unmarried. And they were trying to understand what kind of products will these women buy, what's the market look like, and where should they be focusing the economy, you know? So it's clearly coming, it's happening.
Yeah, how terrible for the males, right? When the women refuse to have sex with them.
Yeah,
Dude,
but
I don't know where you come from, man. Where does this guy come from? Like, what? Are you educated, Deepak?
I came from the same place you did.
He came from Wokistan. That's where he came from.
Yeah. These guys will be the first people to be
ended up in Wokistan, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, when Muslims take over, these are the people whose heads they will chop off the first. You know, the liberals are the one. You know, when Iran was being Islamicized back in the 70s, the first people they killed were the leftists and the communists of Iran, who actually caused the revolution in the first place. Same thing in Bangladesh. And they went to the University of Dhaka. They pulled out all the lefties from the university, the professors, and they beheaded them in the 60s in Bangladesh.
That's an excellent argument for why we should, you know, adjust our beliefs based on what some crazy people in some countries did.
yeah, but it wasn't a bunch of Buddhists, now was it? Because Buddhists are usually chanting, studying, doing their routine. They're not engaged in political regime warfare change and terrorism and murder and rape and chaos. They're pretty peaceful people, and I think it has to do with what they read. Maybe content and what we consume actually plays a role in how we behave and what we think and what we say and how we communicate. Maybe the Quran, maybe all the Islamic literature and propaganda they put out's a problem. Maybe, I don't know, I'm just a moron.
Are they currently accusing Buddhists?
I just want to point out that. Well, I just want to point out there were also the feminist Buddhists that Doge was pointing out to all the angry, crazy, like terrorist ones, right? Like we should exclude them from that, from what you're talking about, right?
Are they currently accusing Buddhists and, I guess, Burma of genociding or otherwise oppressing the Rohingya?
Not really. Go and read the history of the Rohingya. There's a UN report. The first UN report on Rohingya is when the Rohingya people were going from village to village in Myanmar and raping and killing and maiming the villages of Buddhist local Myanmarese people. Okay? These are the first UN reports. Followed by which the local people of Myanmar had enough and they went on a killing spree. A reverse killing spree of the Rohingya people who they kicked out, who were foreigners to begin with in their land. So I can actually link to that report from, I think it's Amnesty International probably. who everybody hates in any case.
Yeah, the mistake the Rohingya made was not to say like no backsies when they were doing their genocide. Then they would have had no excuse.
I mean, the point is not that the Rohingya are completely historically. That is not the sort of thing that I would believe. It's just that it doesn't seem like the Buddhists are exceptionally peaceful in all circumstances.
Nobody said all or nothing, but for the most part, they seem pretty peaceful. No? I mean, opposite and equal reaction, right? I mean, Mark, you're kind of making a dull point when Shiva just told you that it's an opposite and equal reaction. I mean, it's just, how could you just pick out one thing and say, oh, the Buddhists are genocidal too. Oh, all the Buddhists are genocidal too. You know how stupid that sounds?
Obviously, if you could stop interrupting me. First of all, he hasn't actually shown any equality. I'm sure the backlash is going to be much greater.
This app will never end.
If only because, they don't control the levers, the military. The other factor is, and this is, of course, I'm sure this is not going to be the only example, but there aren't that many Buddhist countries in comparison to Islamic Christian ones, and most of them are going to have...
There's 600 million Buddhists and about 1.1 billion Muslims. It's almost 2 to 1.
I don't actually know. Let me check.
No, I don't believe in this concept of being peaceful when the other person is attacking you. That is not a principle in Buddhism. It's not a principle in Hinduism. In fact, Hindus are known to be very, very violent people when attacked, but they will not take the first action. They will not attack somebody first. Same thing with Buddhists. I mean, go to Sri Lanka. There was a bitter war between the Sinhalese people who are predominantly Buddhists with the Tamil people who are predominantly Hindus, including suicide bombs, right? They used to kill each other, but they didn't kill each other because of their religion. They killed each other because of political reasons and because of language and ethnic conflicts. But once the war was finished, the issue was resolved. Now they live in peace. There is no mutual hatred. And because I visited Sri Lanka many times after the war.
I think you cannot peaceful.
Nothing I said. Okay. Nothing I said implied that, extreme pacifism is the right thing to do. I don't believe in being peaceful either when other groups are being, violent or to some extent violent to you. I mean, I think that there are many, 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 many cases where force is justified. My point is just that I don't think that the Buddhists of Myanmar are notably peaceful in spite of their Buddhism. I think they're also on the violent and tribalistic side, just like many other, if not most other groups would be in their circumstance. Namely,
Mark, what do you think Buddhism is even all about? Like, what is the philosophy about? Is it about peace or tribal warfare?
Yeah, you have to stop interrupting me. But I mean, of course, okay, there are many different sects of Buddhism. Some more sort of contemplative and meditative than others. I mean, do you want me to recite to you, the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path explained?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mahayana, and Theravada.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sort of like cultish Pure Land Buddhism sects in China. Why are you leading me down this road? Obviously, I agree that that if you laser focus in on sort of early Buddhist texts and sutras and so forth, they're going to stress nonviolence, but those are not the only lens by which to understand contemporary Buddhist societies, which, after all, they're not all, becoming, monks and ascetics. They're organizing Buddhist kingdoms and engaging in Buddhist wars, and this is a totally normal historical thing that is just like any other.
Really? I never heard about the Great Buddhist Wars of 2025. Have you ever read Dhammapada, which is the sayings of the Buddha? I know you haven't.
I mean, I owned it as a teenager. I read most of it at the time.
Oh, really?
This was decades ago.
I could give boilerplate Buddhism. It's just basically the idea that there is no self.
Have you confirmed Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, and you can find that identity in Jesus Christ?
Wonderful. Okay, Mark, do you think that, like, I mean, you would agree certainly that, like, culture plays a role, right? Like, broadly speaking, like, to start with, right? In the degree of, like, violence exhibited by, like, people, right, populations, right? And I guess the argument, and I think some of this is true, right? I don't know to what extent that, like, culture is also sort of influenced by what is written in, like, some of the sort of foundational texts of the religions, right, that influence them. So I think, and I do think that
Claire Bear,
what people say about, like, how the Buddhist texts are especially sort of emphasize peace, ahimsa, and so on. I think
Oh my
has that influence.
God!
So it's hard to, like,
what
measure
a
to what
rude
degree.
title. Why are you naming the room this type of vulgar title, honey?
honey bear.
I was going to say, it's interesting
I'm not your honey bear.
That was
I didn't want to debug.
Well, this is a secondary point, so maybe you go, like, yeah, why don't you respond to that? I'll bring this up.
I mean, it depends on what Buddhist texts you're talking about. I mean, the Buddhist texts are not exhausted by the first millennium BC. I mean, Buddhism in Japan had a fairly militaristic history, and I don't think it's exactly fair to describe it as characterized by nonviolence. And one of the sort of more classic arguments against it, or rather criticisms of it, is that it sort of lacked a super deep ethical component. And I think a huge number of, say, for example, Japanese, I don't want to say like kamikaze pilots, because actually I think that is not a good case for this, or a good fit for this. But, Japanese soldiers in the army viewed their sort of duties as stemming from a Buddhist origin. I mean, same thing with the sort of general feudal structure, the belief in sort of reincarnation and determination and duty. I mean, I don't think there was a super notable legacy of Buddhist pacifism there that is qualitatively different from, say, Christian pacifism of various strands in Europe at the same, during the same time in the same eras.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, so okay, I'll give you the Japanese one for the most part. Although I think even there, like, there's some sort of history of, like, not exactly pacifism, but well, anyway, whatever. Like, I'll get, so, okay, look, the other thing I was going to say was that, like, I think the impression I have about Buddhists being, like, Buddhism having, like, peaceful influences is partly, I think, due to the fact that in most countries, actually, there's very few countries where, there are many countries where Buddhism is, like, common, but not the dominant religion, right? So they don't have that opportunity to sort of take over the political apparatus and then institute, like, repressive violence against other religions. Maybe that's why.
And I'm also not denying that there's a ton of Buddhist pacifism in countries that they do administer. I'm not yet convinced that it's notably different from other religions.
I just suspect, I mean, I really don't know, I mean, we'd have to look at the stats or something, but, like, I suspect, like, it's had a sort of benign influence, right, relative to other religions.
That may be the case. I mean, go ahead.
I was also going to say, I actually also believe this about Hinduism. Of course, it would be like a...
Yeah, no, so do I.
Yeah,
for example, like, it doesn't have a sort of exclusivist soteriology. So, it's not really built into the theology to be afraid of other religions, because they're not necessarily endangering your mortal soul in the same way.
Exactly.
That said, I mean, one of the problems with, like, looking into early Buddhist scriptures in order to unlock, the soul of modern Buddhists is that Buddhist scriptures don't really scale to an entire society. Like, most Buddhists living in most Buddhist countries, they're not becoming monks and ascetics. They're not wearing the orange robes and carrying, mendicant bowls or whatever, and meditating a huge amount. Rather, it's mostly just a kind of, like, somewhat ordinary generic religion to them, where they, they mostly ignore it, and then they have personal problems, and so they pray and offer sacrifices to the Buddha to grant them favors, and it's just like a sort of weird, poorly defined generic religion, almost like any other, where the doctrines are less important than the ritual.
I put some links in the chat, and I think, what you're saying is ridiculous. If you compare the actual texts of the Dhammapada and the Quran, you will see a massive difference in intelligence, in understanding, comprehension, culture, etc. And Mark, what you're saying is just, it's dribble.
Well, the thing I actually just said is that the right place to go to understand contemporary Buddhist societies is not the Dhammapada or any of the other, early Pali texts. It's to look at, essentially what they're doing and what, how most Buddhist people in a Buddhist society who are not actually trying very hard to, forsake most of their desires, but are actually living completely normal, lives full of desires, just like we are, and who treat treat the Buddha as essentially a god to be propitiated. That's where you want to go.
No, that's not where I want to go. I want to actually read the text. I want to know what the texts are telling me. What's in the books. Because I can live in Chicago and read Quran and Dhammapada and say, you know what? Dhammapada is a hell of a lot better book than Quran. It's way better. Like 100,000 times better. The Quran is like written by an illiterate schmuck in the desert who can barely pull anything together. It's one of the worst books you've ever read. It's stupid beyond belief. You read Dhammapada and you're like, wow, this is some really well formulated psychology here about how to live your best life. The Quran doesn't do that for you.
I mean, I agree with much of what you said, in that I like the Dhammapada a whole lot, and I find it touching in a lot of ways, whereas I don't have that kind of relationship with the Quran at all. I'm just very unimpressed by the latter, but that doesn't touch on my point at all that I just made.
No, I think you don't. I think the Western understanding of ahimsa or nonviolence is wrong. It's an incorrect interpretation of what nonviolence is meant to be in Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Jainism. War is very much a part of these religions because you have to resort to war when nothing else is possible. You have no other choices, right? But the question is, what kind of a war should it be? Should it? What kind of a purpose should it have? It should be virtuous. It has to be restrained. You cannot harm women and children. You cannot. If you go into the text like Mahabharata and stuff, they've specified what kind of arrows can be used and what kind of arrows you should not use, because cruelty to the opponent is forbidden. They go to enormous level of detail, and we should not fight a war after dusk in the evening, because that is when the enemy has to sleep. There are rules like that. There's also things about animal rights in Buddhism. But the point is,
hi, Anne. I know you're a skinny little thing, but
probably not.
When I came up with this room title, I was thinking about some of the fattest and dumbest people on Clubhouse. You may be one of the dumbest, but you're not the fattest, so at least you got that going for you.
Right. There is violence. See, all these religions have had their own share of violence. My point is, the difference with Islam.
I roasted Monica so hard today in Chillism. Ugh, it was so much fun. I wish you were there to see all the chat. I just kept calling her pig, 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 pig.
You don't have to trust your gut. If you're fat, then you can't trust your gut. So those people are really extra retarded, the fat people. But I want to hear about Monica.
Yeah, there's nothing to say. She's just such a weak individual who kept trying to get me thrown out of the room. I got thrown out of the Chillism room 6 times today by 6 different accounts. I roasted them relentlessly for being stupid beyond belief and wasting their time on a Sunday. Because it is really the dumbest room. It's just people trying to come up with thoughts and ideas who are like bad. I understand everybody wants to be a good public speaker, and that's what a lot of people are trying to do, but nobody's actually studying public speaking. Nobody's actually. It's just.
They're not even public because these people wouldn't even talk like that.
Anyways, they're just worthy of being roasted, and Tali and Nathan are just 2 really stupid people beyond belief.
Nathan is. Oh.
I'm not saying that they're not like somewhat nice, you know, and somewhat chill, but I'm just saying that it's just obvious that that room is like a toxic mind virus that just can't quit.
100%.
Yeah. It just
That's
kind
the perfect
yeah.
toxic mind virus. That's exactly what that room is.
It shows you how bad ideas can stay alive in the mind's eye and how it persists and how it's like it's a zombie that just won't die because there's like I don't know, people are I mean, you know, I'm just saying people are just acting like school stopped, you know, whether they stopped at high school or stopped at college, it's just like they stopped being students and now they're just engaged in useless discourse and dopamine creation and it's pathetic.
I don't know how people stay in there every day for like 10 hours straight. Like I can't. I have to be in there like very little. I cannot be in there longer than 20 minutes. Otherwise, I can feel that like I don't know.
It's really stupid. That's why I say just film. I mean, that's why I film everything because there is absolutely no point in me wasting my time unless I'm creating something out of it. You know, scraping. I mean, something.
You know,
But I
and
just
the intelligent
shocked.
people that were actually in chillism, they like left the app. Like Huey. Do you remember Huey the goat?
Oh, like he was a really high. Listen, nobody is high
that
IQ.
room, for that room.
No, even in that room, he's still a schmuck too. I saw his
And
stupid
he was
book.
the smartest one in that room.
He sounds good. That's it. But he's still an idiot. Trust me.
I like him.
Everybody's. Well, you know, you can like whoever you want, but I mean.
I like Wyatt.
Oh yeah, super piece of shit. Dangerous piece of shit. Stupid
He's
piece
the,
of shit.
he's the real Jew, you know.
Oh yeah, he's really
That's
the
not
real
true,
Jew.
we established that last
Descendant
time
of
we
slaves
talked
pulled
about
out of west coast of Africa, driving a truck, telling us that he knows everything. That he's better and smarter than all of us, and that he says that he literally says that he is the N-word solution.
Of course.
That he's the N-word and he's the solution. That's what he says. He thinks he's the solution.
Mark actually might be
He's
interested
an
in this.
angry,
Like,
low
you seen that
IQ,
movie?
stupid person.
You had to tell me more about Monica, because Monica and I do not talk.
Ooh, you guys had a falling out? Damn.
Yeah.
I've been annoyed lately. The last couple of times I've been thinking about stuff. My solution always gets ruined because of the cardinality stuff. Like with induction, I was like, oh, this seems like there's more worlds with 20, more than 20 suns than there are with 20. And then someone would be like, oh, the infinity sizes are the same, so you can't use that to justify induction. Or if I want to say, like, in more of the worlds, this epistemic practice gets true beliefs than this other epistemic practice, so we can use that to justify our epistemic practices. Like, oh, no, the infinity worlds, they're all the same size, so fuck you. It's just been,
excuse me. In general, there's not going to be. I mean, first of all, there aren't really a lot of super successful attempts at like trying to justify induction to begin with. And second of all, sadly, if there are going to be any, they're going to be based on something much more nuanced and finer grained, mere cardinality.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I keep having these hopes of solving problems, and the infinity stuff keeps fucking me up, dude. It's like this, like Sasquatch, this evil Sasquatch that follows me around and fucks my ideas up.
Yeah, it kind of affects everything.
Like the whole idea that I had of like, okay, listen, certain practices work well in a wide variety of situations. One that works pretty well is, you know, checking if stuff is right. That's going to work in a large swath of situations. Whereas smashing your head with hammers is not going to work in a wide swath of situations.
I don't even know what he's talking about.
So we can just like know that a priori, and then use that to justify certain practices. But like, no, the amount of possible worlds where you smash your head and get true beliefs is just as big as the world where you just curiously check stuff. Rip.
Yeah, but look at how Marvel comic books, you know, use the Infinity Stones. It's like a state of consciousness. So, I mean, I don't even know what you're talking about with induction and infinity or eternity. I mean, these are just like words for pondering and for awe's sake to realize just how insignificant you are in terms of the grand scale of the universe. But, you know, I mean, if the universe created the earth and you came out of the earth, you are essentially, the universe creating you so you can look back and wonder at it all or observe it because the universe is that intelligent to create you.
Bro, the way you started out that was, look how this relates to the Infinity Stones. The Infinity Stones are just states of consciousness. I was like, bro, you're just like popping off. Like the Infinity Stones have nothing to do with infinity. This is that me and Mark are talking about. And then even if we talk about the Infinity Stones, they're stones. They're not states of consciousness. What are you guys talking about?
I'm saying it's a joke, meaning that like you can snap your fingers and achieve whatever your will desires. So it's all a joke. It's called the cosmic joke. It's the universal joke.
What does that have to do with
The point.
I temporarily changed the subject and told Mark that recently I've been trying stuff out to justify, epistemic practices or induction. And using like possible worlds and like numbers of possible worlds to justify them, and they
I'd love to talk about the
getting
topic
fucked over by the fact that infinities are like it's hard to compare sizes of infinities basically. But
if you don't mind, I only have a few minutes. I mean, I'll
if you want to pop off about Islam and women, you can pop off, sir.
Now, I just want to know what your position is first. Well, what does Islam get right about women?
Just generally, it's general perspective, right?
Like what?
Just its overall attitudes and positions.
Overall attitude for women.
It's don't you know that it's a facetious title? It's a troll title.
Oh. Okay.
I guess you guys don't know who Phoenix is. You should first find out who Phoenix is if you don't know.
Well, I know he doesn't know how to spell.
He's a fellow anti-Islam critic.
I am, I have deep-seated hatred for Islam, especially when it comes to this particular topic, especially with the child diddling stuff, especially for females. That for me is just a bit too much, and I have enough. Actually, you know what? Since you brought up about women, do you know that I got a PDF, 20-page PDF right here with me on marital rape in Islam and how it's not considered marital rape because they don't have a concept of marital rape because once you're married to the woman, he's your property. She's your property. You can do whatever you want with her. So I can even show you that. It's pretty messed up.
That's just Islamic.
She's your wife, dude. She's not someone else's wife.
That's just Islamophobic. That's Islamophobic reframing.
Well, is it Islamic reframing if Muhammad himself said it? Like, if you, so there is a hadith that actually says that if the wife refrains entry of her husband for any reason, the angels will curse day and night to her.
Oh, hi, Princess.
This has been given precedence to actually show
You might be one of the fattest, dumbest women and catfishes on the app as well, so. But this room wasn't created with you in mind. I wasn't thinking about you when I created it. I was thinking about Manika.
Indicates that marital rape is allowed, although it may be.
Yeah, marital rape is totally allowed in Islam, but also what's worse.
You hear that, Princess? If you get married to a Muslim, I mean, I know you are a widow of a Muslim, but
in Islam, it makes it quite clear that
did he ever rape you?
Even a girl in a cradle.
Because if you refused his advances,
like literally just married off.
You're not allowed to do that. Apparently, you have to submit
once you study Islamic
to the will of your man's penis.
You know, the sayings of the Prophet. I mean,
told my cousin that you call me a catfish, and she said I'm the opposite of a catfish. I'm actually a catfish, you know. I'm a catfish because I post photos of me from when I'm like 21, I literally have like a photo of me on my dating app. It's like I have a full head of hair. Now I'm like a fat old dad bod who's bald.
God says that that's what you should do. Why would you argue against God? He knows better.
Because you believe in fitra, right?
I need to get some new photos pretty
do
soon and
that?
like get a new dating profile with like updated photos. So
It's called,
sorry when you go out on a date, they're like, where did all your hair go?
No, but my fitra is not to bang a 90 or a person in a cradle. That's my fitra. So if I'm going against my fitra that God has given me, then I'm going what? Allah's contradicting himself? He's a schizophrenic or some shit? Like, well, what's the point of actually bringing a quagmire into an intellect? This is what we call an intellectual quagmire, where you're saying my fitra is this, but I'm saying what my fitra is because that's not my fitra.
And I want to play for you this Monica clip that I have. It's kind of funny.
Little girls.
she had a blow up on me 2 days ago.
65
let me see if I can find the profile.
Surah Al-Talaq, verse 4, if you want more specific.
The roast of Monica the Clown. Okay, listen to this. Sarah replayed this. Sarah Sabo. I don't know who that is. It's only 3 minutes long. She roasts me. She has like a breakdown. It's coming. Oh, that was Ben Sassia for a moment. Isn't that funny? Their house got in trouble because I was recording them. Is that just fake news? I don't think that what Monica's saying is even real. I think she's full of shit. She's claiming that because I recorded chillism, their house got in trouble. It's like typical Monica bullshit. She's just a stupid fat person.
You're allowed to. It's in the terms of conditions. It says that you're allowed to record. You're just not allowed to use it as commercial use.
Oh, like so I can't create an advertisement.
Yeah.
Or publish it somehow, but I mean, just live streaming myself in my office.
What happens on Clubhouse stays on Clubhouse, essentially.
Yeah, but that's so stupid because that's like saying that they're going to launch 100 lawsuits every day against people that just record everything.
Right, but they can use our voices and everything for commercial use and stuff in third party. So like, you see how that works?
Yeah. They capture everything. You get nothing out of the experience. You're just a dead person. You're a zombie to them.
Exactly.
You don't even exist. You have no meaning. You have no power. You're just a worthless fucking, zombie slave.
Exactly.
And then you have to deal with fat people who want to sit here all day long and complain and bitch and moan and say stupid things, and then target me because somebody in your room was probably recording it. It probably wasn't even just me. It was probably other people that hate. Do you know how many people hate other people on this app and come to me with snitch and put shit in the chat and then start live streaming rooms to me because they know I can't hear it and they want to make sure I hear how stupid they are and how much they hate them. It's unbelievable.
19 to 21. That was literally the age that people were getting married. So that's number one. Historically, that's factually incorrect. Second of all, Muhammad literally got rid of usury. He even a program in order to get rid of alcohol within his community, which, by the way, today is the most prevalent out of all of it, right? Alcohol and usury, we use that every day when you're doing banking. Yet somehow he forgot to take rid of the two things that are probably the most important out of all of them, which is child diddling and slavery. How is it that he had the best opportunity to say, look, I'm going to be the last prophet in the world here. Hello. I'm the last prophet right here. But I forgot the most important thing, which is to get rid of the practice that, by the way, he was the only one. We have no other sources during the Arabian time that people were doing this. He was the only one, the only thing that we can say that he was the only one who actually introduced it. We literally have none of this shit. And on top of that, he banned adoption because he wanted to get his dick wet. He banned adoption and in order to marry his adopted son's wife for that. And now you're only allowed to foster kids, not adopt anymore. Because he wanted to get his dick wet. And now we're supposed to just accept that? Like all this stuff. Who was having problem around his time with actually banging, their adopted son's wife, banging little kids? Nobody. This was just a problem that he was trying to deal with the whole time. And he brought verses of the Quran, supposedly the Lawh al-Mahfuz, the eternal tablet of God was written on it. Seriously, do you expect me to believe that? That's crazy.
Well, I mean, if it is divinely ordained, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal.
By the way, the Roman thing, I mean, I can find a bunch of sources documenting, prepubescent girls getting married. Plutarch thought it was, common and natural for all the places to do it.
By that time, all those practices were gone. We're talking about during the time of Muhammad onwards, not during the pagan times. We're talking Muhammad onwards. So, and by the way, that's one thing that you don't want to. A lot of Muslims don't want to agree to this. Is that while the entire Muslim empire, the average age of marriage was decreasing in the entire Christian and non-Christian in the non-Muslim world, it was actually increasing. It was going upwards. This was going backwards in a different way when we were talking about the Islamic empires. So, and on top of that, the slaver market was actually becoming the biggest in Muslim worlds at the same time. Again, those two premises that I told you about, slavery and child diddling, could have stopped. Muhammad had every opportunity to stop that, but he didn't. He just chose riba and chose alcohol and other stuff that were, yes, maybe consequential to himself or others, but then, what about the rest? You could have gotten rid of this stuff. He had every opportunity to get rid of this stuff in his own mouth, but he fell short somehow.
Was the Roman guy the messenger of God? I mean, do a billion people follow the Roman guy today? Whereas Muhammad was the messenger of God, and people actually follow him. That's a huge difference, right?
Yeah, but people read Marcus Aurelius Meditations, but not in the volume that Muslims read Quran. And, if they were to read Marcus Aurelius, maybe they'd, create a moral or a virtue in them, or a new law that would prevent them right now from wanting to be diddlers and terrorists.
I mean, the argument is simply that, Muhammad could have, improved, the ethical practices of his days relative to what we think, proper ethical behavior is, then, yeah, you're not going to find an argument from me, a counter argument, but the same token, I think you could say that about pretty much every prophet and religious figure.
Snowflake, peanut butter. I'm going to kill some, I have some mice that are I can see them outside my house every day, so I'm going to get some mouse traps this week. and put some peanut butter on there and try to kill these fucking rats.
There are verses, for example, that I actually brought.
Yeah, peanut butter doesn't fall off the bait, and it's sticky, so they sit there and they lick it, and then it kills them.
So he created a verse. By the way, guys, I'm getting a revelation from Allah that you guys get the hell out of my.
I know. I have a stone. They're living underneath a stone underneath this little fucking shitty.
I mean, stuff like that. You're wondering.
But fucking raccoons. Oh my gosh.
Do you find much
those are
daylight
basically
between this
big rats.
and, like, you know,
That
between
fucking
stuff in the old Testament?
Yeah, they're crazy. They're basically like little mini
I'll
bears.
tell you one thing.
Yeah, and possums.
Yeah, possums are really gross.
Really fucking ugly.
I shot a possum though last year with a pellet gun, and I actually felt kind of bad because I was like, poor fucking possums, just trying to get something to eat. I'm trying to kill it, like.
That's descriptive, not prescriptive.
Poor
That's
little thing.
prescribing you to go around
Have you
killing
ever
people.
seen them? They hiss
Yeah, but
and everything.
I know, they're like clown house people. They get angry and they hiss.
And they hiss.
Where we get like the prescriptions
But
again.
then I
like,
tried to kill it, and then I felt bad because I was like,
two clouds
poor
made
little
of,
thing.
like,
It's
a cloud
basically
made
a
of
big
different
rat,
kinds of
which is what's really gross
whatever,
about
right?
them. They're
Like-
so ugly. See, a raccoon.
the
Raccoons are kind of cute. Squirrels are
going
kind of
just
cute.
not-
Raccoons are probably the cutest, but yeah, that's the thing about a possum is they're so ugly that like it's just you want to kill it. But the truth is, when you try to kill it, you feel kind of bad for it. You're like, oh, the thing just wants to eat and just be left alone. It's not bothering anyone.
Have sex with a little jerk. Like that has never been happened.
Yeah, I'm in a room right
Like,
now
where
called
is-
Islam is Right
like,
About Women.
Is there something that, okay, you're saying this, is it, okay, there may be something in the Quran that actually prescribes that you go and have sex with little girls, but like,
It's 65
like,
verse 4.
you mean,
You know, like a
Okay,
mile
fine,
away
whatever.
from me,
fine,
there
whatever,
was
but like the point is like, you know,
a
you were also
little
making the
girl
argument
playing in
earlier
her
that like
sandbox.
Muhammad
She
could
was
have
2 years
like
old,
stopped
in
certain,
the
like, you know, it's
backyard.
also like,
And,
you know,
you know, if a
sin by
raccoon is
omission, right,
always
in some
during
cases,
the
like
day
you could have stopped
has
the
rabies.
practices. I mean, that same
And
argument could
the
apply to like
raccoon jumped
Moses
into her
and,
sandbox
you know,
and
many of
mauled her
the,
face to no recognition.
No,
That
she's
is
not
the
really appreciate.
entire
And
world.
I'm not a Jew either, dude. I'm not defending Judaism.
Okay, okay.
So no, I don't think raccoons are fucking cute.
I'm just curious what your attitude was. Like, if it's something that you pick up.
When I was a kid, my cousin David, he almost blinded me in the sandbox. I had to go to the fucking ER.
condemn that too.
He
I'd
was,
be the first one to say that.
yeah, he almost fucking knocked my eye out.
I'm an agnostic. I don't follow any religion.
My dad was so
as far as I'm
protective of
concerned,
me.
this is a two-court
I wanted a
policy.
sandbox
And it
put
doesn't
a
affect me in any way,
sandbox
shape, or
in
form.
the back playroom.
Look, I'm not making an
Of my
argument,
house.
right? That's why it's not a two-cooking fallacy. I was just curious whether, like,
Did they
whether
talk
this-
about you? No, they didn't mention you,
said like, it
Snowflake.
seems like you study the Quran a lot, but not the Old Testament as much, and that's. I don't know. Like, it's reasonable to inquire into like what the motives were, right? But like, you know, presumably you live in a country like you probably live in the U.S. where you're not exposed as much to like Islam.
Good God, man.
So,
God, these liberals, you know, the whole point of being a liberal is
liberals
somehow
are just-
show Islam in a good light and make other religions look just as bad. That's the whole purpose of their living, you know.
Correct.
Are you telling me that you're an Islamic? Are you an Islamic expert? With all due respect. Like,
I'm not. I'm
be
just
honest with
asking. No, of course not. That wasn't the point at all. That wasn't even close to the point. Like maybe looks like you didn't get the point though, right?
You want my
Like,
credentials? I'll give you my credentials.
you
I'm
don't
an
need my
Arabic speaker.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
an Arabic speaker. I studied
Okay.
to go to a university in order to become an Islamic judge.
Oh,
I
okay.
found out all these
Okay.
stuff.
Well, that
So
makes sense then.
I
Okay,
know
that's-
all of this stuff because I actually the main reason why I left Islam is because of this moral issue.
Okay, look, I didn't even know that you like. I just maybe for some reason I thought earlier I misunderstood something you said. That actually everything makes sense then. Like honestly, it does, right?
Yeah. No worries.
The thing you need to understand is that Islamic slavery was actually extremely humane for the time, and in fact, it's really only slavery in name only. Like the better term for it, which is the translation of the Arabic term, which is those whom your right hand possess. And I think we should call it that in English to make it clear that it's just like a completely different and incomparable institution to sort of Western transatlantic chattel slavery. You know, slavery was more similar to maybe indentured servitude. You know, you were required to treat your slaves kindly. You know, you were required to feed them from your own table. You know, if you abuse them. There are stories of the prophets ordering slaves to be manumitted in order, because they were abused heavily. Like the prophet, spent his entire life encouraging the manumission of slaves, and he himself freed countless slaves. And as we see, there's no slavery remaining in the Muslim world for the most part. I mean, maybe you could argue Mauritania still has it, but I would say that's a backwater that is not being emulated by other states. So clearly, overall, I think Islam is an extremely anti-slavery religion, perhaps the most anti-slavery religion.
Yeah, but Mark, I mean, if you read Dhammapada, I don't ever remember anything about the Buddha's sayings even touching on slavery. So it wasn't even a consideration.
Yeah, but the problem is, slavery was well known back then, even in the Buddhist empires. But the thing is that people who are bad actors would say, "Oh, well, that means that we can get away with anything when it comes to slavery because he didn't even talk about it."
No, I don't think it existed.
What, you think it didn't exist
in Gautam
in China?
Well, what I'm saying. Well, I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna say that it didn't exist. I'm just saying that in the philosophy. Okay, but I'm just saying that in the philosophy that they don't touch on it in the way that you might in the Quran or something. But, anyways, I'm just saying Islam is right about women.
Which you didn't actually have.
Yeah, I think the most recent example of Islamic slavery was ISIS taking on Yazidi slaves, and they did exactly to the Yazidis what the Muslims did to the Jewish slaves and the other tribes. They took Yazidi girls as sex slaves at a very tender age of 9. Some of them were transferred to Hamas. One of the girls who grew up in Gaza was actually a Yazidi sex slave from ISIS who was transferred to Hamas in Gaza. They actually got her to escape. And the Israeli army, I think, took a video interview.
After they killed all the people who were putting her into slavery, they were all killed in an airstrike. She just walked out in a pile of rubble. She went on TikTok saying, "Hey, if Israeli army is here, I'm live streaming over here. I'm on this road. Can you please pick me up?" And they came and picked her up.
Well,
yeah, and
ISIS weren't real Muslims, so this is examples more of a red herring.
ISIS were not Muslims? In what sense?
Well, I mean, it's well known. There's a saying of the Prophet that if one Muslim accuses another of apostatizing, then at least one of them is an apostate. So in other words, if the accuser, the takfiri, is getting it wrong, then he himself or she herself is an apostate. Now, ISIS basically declared anyone who defied their rule to be and didn't recognize them as the proper caliphate being an apostate. And of course, the overwhelming majority of Orthodox Muslims, like all of the clerics in Al-Azhar University, everyone in Deoband, anyone in the University of Medina, there's like this universal scholarly consensus that they are not, they themselves are not apostates for not failing to recognize ISIS and Abu Bakr as the caliph. So clearly, that implies deductively that in fact ISIS themselves were apostates.
Well, no, I mean either all it deductively implies is that either ISIS are the apostates or the right.
But, you're right, but there is this inductive element to the case, which is that there's this there's this thousands of years old tradition of the recognition of the Sunnah, that ultimately the Sunnah will not get things wrong, or if there's disagreement, it's going to be minor. So given that we know that it's the overwhelming consensus among Sunni scholars that they're not apostates for failing to recognize ISIS as the proper caliphate, we can infer from that probabilistically that in fact they're not apostates, and thus, from our previous deductive investigations, it must be ISIS who are the apostates, and therefore they were never true Muslims to begin with.
But how do you probabilistically and inductively determine all this, Dr. Mark?
Thank you.
So the head of ISIS, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, right, was a scholar of Islam. His whole PhD thesis was on Islam. He spent 10 years of his life studying Islam before he joined the mosque as an imam. He was the founder of one of those sects within his gang of fellow brethren Muslims. So, and would you say Taliban are the true Muslims then? I mean, do the Taliban do anything different that ISIS does not do? I mean, if anything, the Taliban are from the Deobandi school, which is in India, which is not even an Arab school. The ISIS are more genuinely Arabs,
Well, if the Taliban isn't going around takfiring everyone who doesn't recognize their hegemony, then I would say they're true Muslims. But ISIS isn't. I mean, the fact that al-Baghdadi, may have gone through an Islamic curriculum. Maybe he was Muslim. Okay, maybe he was Muslim at some point in his youth, but at some, by the time he had founded ISIS and declared its supremacy, then he had himself apostatized. So he wasn't a true Muslim at that point, or at the point later, of course, when he was going around enslaving Yazidis. Because as we already agreed, Islam doesn't really have slavery. It has this different institution that Western Orientalists are calling slavery.
No, Muslims, even, if you go to the history of India, if you go to the markets of Afghanistan back in the day, thousands and thousands of Hindu and Punjabi women were being sold in the sex markets by Muslim invaders who were mostly Afghans. They were not even the ISIS clan. They were most likely very similar to what you would call the modern day Deobandi school, right? In fact, the Sufis also did sex slavery. The Sufis were known to have some of the biggest markets of sex slaves of people from other religions. It's well known.
It may be the case that unlike the institution of those whom your right hand possessed, there was in some contexts like real slavery akin to European slavery, but that doesn't mean it's really Islamically sanctioned.
How can you just not just analyze the Quran and say, damn, this is a bad book. This isn't a good optimization for life. A lot of this is really bad. And just leave it at that and just know the whole system is all based off of this one book, the glorious Quran. And just know that it's a shitty book. And therefore, 1.1 billion people right now are adherents to a shit book.
I mean, I agree that you and I, as English speakers, I don't know if you speak any other languages, it's a really uninspiring, boring book in English translation. But I mean, that's not the right criterion to judge it by. The right criterion to judge it by is its quality in the Arabic language. And in the Arabic language, it is unambiguously not only the greatest book in the entire Arabic language, but arguably, the greatest book of any book ever written in any language. In any language, for its native writing system rather than any kind of translation. And in fact, not only is it the greatest, it's essentially miraculous. It's people have had 1,400 years to produce a single surah or 10 surahs like it. They failed every time. If they just produced a single one, they would have refuted it and no one would have been a Muslim. But obviously, they can't do it because of its inimitable quality in the Arabic language specifically, if not, some man-made English translation.
Well, I say all the time on this app that all communication is hypnosis. And if you listen to the glorious Quran being recited in the glorious Quran 24/7 room on this app, where that's constantly being recited, you realize that it's a very powerful hypnosis. It's very psychedelic and hypnotic. So it has a power, but the programming messaging is stupid. But nonetheless, it's still a powerful hypnosis. The rolling of the R's, the chanting itself is very powerful in terms of creating deep relaxation. But there's just really no intelligence or comprehension in what they're saying and espousing in the actual, messaging. It just sounds good. It's superficial.
For a divine origin. Yeah, but that sounds like a good origin. I mean, good evidence of divine origin, right? If they have such a supernatural.
Right. And the hypnotic quality of the phonetic, that's just one tiny aspect of its inimitability. Combine if you combine the hypnotic aspect of, you know, the sounds with the extraordinary poetry that resists any kind of classification in terms of known forms of poetry, Arabic poetry in the 7th century. You combine it with its sort of prophetic foreknowledge, not only of science, but of history and archaeology, its prophecies, the countless literary devices, and you think all of this was written by an illiterate man. Like, what's more likely that an illiterate man was able, to do all of these things simultaneously, much less, or even just a single one of them in the middle of Arabia, when everyone around him was motivated to dispute it and just produce a single surah, and if they had done it, they would have completely ended his burgeoning political career. What's more likely that, or that he was
here is the thing. I think I would admit with you that Muslims committed atrocities. They invaded people's lands, they enslaved them, they enslaved their women. All these bad things, Muslims, they did, yeah. But they are not in the book. Stop accusing Quran of such things. I think it's time for you to be a bit serious, yeah. If we are talking about the book and accusing it for being the source of this, you have to show it to me in the book.
Listen, I agree. The Quran is not a historical narrative that gives us any actual understanding.
You are not listening. You are not listening. Dodge, you are not listening. Right now, the context you were discussing about enslaving people, and you said Quran is a shitty book. Show me in Quran where Allah or the God or the author of the book says you can just go out there and enslave people. It's not in the book. So you need to start.
Okay, let me Google that for you. 1 second. Please hold.
Yes. And please, when you bring a verse, bring the context. I will read the context for you and show me where it says you can do that.
Yeah, we miss Phoenix right now. He would have been nice. Or any other favorite ex-Muslim. But did Muhammad have slaves for you?
No.
Did Muhammad not have sex slaves?
No. Muhammad had mulkul yamin, your right-hand possession. Right-hand possession is not the slaves. Right-hand possession is literally the poor, weak people in society. You literally will be there.
Oh, right. The girl Sorry? Whose family he killed and beheaded.
Okay. 1 second.
I mean, can't you just view it as a caste system where you have these new overlords who come in with this supreme philosophy and understanding, and the unlearned, the unwise, the illiterate of the population are now doing all the work. I mean, you can look at the chat from Wikipedia and see a young African boy chained carrying a stone on his head. So, I mean, to anyone who thinks that because we're all equal and the Quran says so, that the slaves are going to be equal in heaven. I mean, you're just really an asshole. You're a cocksucker who essentially likes slavery. I mean, it's evil, beyond evil. You're literally ruining people's lives, giving them no life, just making them, workhorses. It's brutal. It's medieval.
Modern research into algebraic geometry has uncovered the deep relationships that the surahs of the Quran has with certain elliptic curves, the rank, and people think that there's a lot of pointers to a proof of the Swinnerton-Dyer conjecture and so on, Iwasawa theory, a lot of deep connections, right? Like, how could Muhammad have possibly have known even abstract algebra? Forget the modern stuff.
Muslims didn't invent algebraic geometry.
I mean, there's what is it? The Romans borrowed from the Persians the name logarithm, or I can't remember how the Romans borrowed some mathematical. Is it algorithm? Is that the word? Yeah.
It wasn't plural. Yeah.
No.
I mean, listen, back.
Al-Khwarizmi, his name is Al-Khwarizmi. He wrote a book called Kitab al-Hind. Kitab al-Hind refers to the mathematics of India. So Al-Khwarizmi wrote a book on the mathematics of India, which became popular in Europe, and they were so appreciative of these ideas that they gave the name algorithm. Not just that, the Arabs took the ideas of sine and cosine functions from India, and they gave it the name sine because they misunderstood it to be a pocket or jib. So anyway, all in all, the Arabs get a lot of credit for things they did not invent, but they were certainly curious people. They learned a lot, they traveled a lot, and they wrote a lot of books. So you must give it to them, but it was not always their ideas, but they popularized.
I'm so glad we have Shiva here to disabuse us of even the smallest credit we might want to give to Muslims and Arabs in general. Right?
Absolutely, man. 100%.
The Delhi Sultanate already existed at the time of Al-Khwarizmi's writing, so most likely he was getting all of that stuff from Indian Muslims specifically.
No, Indian Muslims were never known to do a lot of mathematical work. In fact, you can look at the school of Brahmagupta and Aryabhatta, and which is where most of these ideas came from. So the ideas of decimal place value system, the ideas of sine and cosine functions, as well as a differential calculus from the Kerala School of Mathematics.
You got to give it to the Brit.
I mean, that's a common myth. Like the Kerala school, as impressive it was, definitely didn't invent, differential calculus.
I think you got to give it to. Go ahead, Sheila.
No. I was just asking Mark if that is your claim, or have you read about it, or have you seen the documentary about this, or should I send it to you just for your knowledge?
I mean, I don't know if I probably haven't seen whatever specific documentary you have in mind, but I mean, I've read about the debate, and I know that it's more or less universally rejected by historians of mathematics outside of India.
But they weren't Indian, so we don't really care. But the
yeah. I mean, we don't actually. I mean, it's possible that some of them were secretly Muslim, but were hiding it in order to avoid any kind of, marginalization.
Absolutely. What happened was lately a lot of Indian historians have gone and produced BBC documentaries. So that is how they have kind of spread the propaganda. So yeah, you might be right.
How do you view colonialism in terms of information extraction from the world? Because I've read so many English translations of Hindu classical text, Buddhist classical text, Chinese classical text, all sacred texts that the British and the Victorian era translated from 1820 to 1920. I mean, they were literally sucking up the world's information and retranslating it into English. So to me, that is like one massive accomplishment of the British or English speaking peoples. It may maybe they caused a lot of chaos around the world, but nonetheless, they extracted all the high value intelligence from every single major society on the planet from all their sacred texts. They got the best fruits of every country and put it into English.
And who did that first? The Muslims. Under the Abbasid specifically, in the court of Harun al-Rashid. They had synthesized ancient Greek and Byzantine and Arabic and Indian and even to some extent Chinese thought into one coherent, more or less perfect system.
A.k.a. Islam?
It's almost like the Muslims were behind every evil and unethical practice. I bet you if you look into the history in cricket, I've never actually thought about this, but there's the term not quite cricket means doing something unethical. It was probably invented because of something a Pakistani cricketer did. Am I right, Sean?
No, you are not right. Everybody are evil, by the way. Every civilization who ruled the earth is evil. The Romans, the Byzantines, the Americans today, everybody are evil. They are killing, they are taking advantage, they are doing all the bad things. So stop using, and by the way, even the positive side, at least we think positive, whether it's science, it's advancement, it's whatever, values even, I don't even credit them to Islam. So stop crediting things that human beings does to religion. It's not about being a Christian, a Hindu, or Muslim, or whatever. Those are people who have been ruling lands And any ruler, he has a vision, he develops something, he pushes something here, something there, some science. So it's all human things, but it has nothing to do with religion. By the way, Islam, the book of God itself, it has nothing to. In fact, God in Quran says, "Forget about this life. I'm here. This message for you is to don't get, driven by life, because life will take you, literally, will make you love this life and don't focus on next life. God don't want that in the book, and this is what people are missing here. They are using it as an excuse. You cannot. God, the focus of Quran is mainly for next life. Allah says, avoid.
Yeah, but warrior, there's only the now.
Like, is there any surah in the Quran that talks about like irony and how to like recognize it?
Sorry, say again. What's the question?
That's a good question. It's kind of funny.
You said irony. I don't know.
It's a little bit like I heard.
Maybe this is like language issue. Like when I said stuff about like how the Quran is like root of all evil and stuff, I was being sarcastic, right? I was just parodying like guys.
No. The envy and the hatred comes in sarcasm. So it's deeply rooted in you.
No, he's pointing out that you don't have a sense of humor, warrior. That you're just a warrior, but you're not a comedian. You don't have a sense of humor. You're like a bridge that has no give.
This is what you are doing 24/7.
No, this isn't what I am doing 24/7. This is what you're doing. You're projecting. This is what you do all the time, 24/7. You're projecting.
You are here talking about God and Islam 24/7.
No, brother, I am not. This isn't how I spend my day. It's not. I usually roast other types of peoples. So, I mean, when you said, does the Quran talk about irony? And it's funny how it doesn't. It's ironic that it doesn't. But the point is, that's like saying, why don't white people write rap songs about killing other white people all day long? Maybe it's just not in the culture. But, the point is, Warrior doesn't have a sense of humor about any of this. He's an all or nothing person with regards to Islam. And that's the problem with Islam. It's always all or nothing.
The discussion is serious now. Why you are taking it to some irony? You are talking serious. Why don't you address
Would it just become serious right now? I mean, I don't know. Did I you don't have a sense of humor. You're all or nothing. You're too serious about all of this. That's the problem.
Because you were talking seriously. The whole discussion was serious up until I brought some arguments, and then you just turned it into irony. It doesn't work that way.
No, you said all governments are evil, and you're making all or nothing statements which are not true.
I said early, it's time for you to take Quran seriously.
No, I don't have to take the Quran seriously. It's a shitty book. I have it right behind me on my bookshelf. I look at it from time to time to remind myself just how stupid of a book it is and how shitty it is. It's horrible. It's a stupid book. It's for stupid people who have no further knowledge. If you think it's the one book in all books, you truly are a schmuck.
The only shit thinking in life is to judge something without, focusing on it, without reading it, analyzing it.
I've read it and I've analyzed it, and it's stupid. It's for children or demented, retarded people.
You are literally, your head has a big pile of shit because you are an idiot. You cannot judge any book without reading it. This is your problem.
I can pull it off the bookshelf and read it right now, and you would agree. Damn, that's not that smart. That's pretty stupid.
By the way, I'm not talking about of it because because I believe it's a book of God. Any book, by the way, you cannot judge anything without reading it. You are judging a book right now. You never read it. You didn't do anything.
I have read it, and I can read it right now, sir. I'm repeating myself because you're repeating yourself.
You didn't. You are so dumb.
No, I'm not dumb, Habibi. Habibi, I have read glorious Quran, and it's boring, and it's stupid, and it's pathetic. It's weak, it's retarded, it's a brainwash device. It's stupid.
Okay, so I would say that Warrior, instead of convincing us how great the Quran is, why don't you go and convince all the people who follow the Quran, right, or read it at least, like ISIS and Boko Haram and Al-Shabaab, Al-Qaeda, Hamas, Lashkar-e-Taiba, Mujahideen, Hizbul Mujahideen. Go and talk to them and tell them how beautiful Quran is. And they should not be doing all this after reading the Quran. They shouldn't be cutting people's heads off. They shouldn't be blowing up the airplanes. They shouldn't be raping women, taking sex slaves. Tell them, don't tell us.
No, here's the thing. I am here against all false claims. You made a false claim against Quran, so I have to stop that. I'm telling you what you say about
It's not a false claim. It's called an opinion. I have an opinion that it sucks.
No, okay, good. That's fine. So you are not being like, objective now. It's just an opinion. You can throw your opinions, no problem.
Thank you, but it's also your opinion that it's a great book, and I think it sucks.
I didn't say it's a great book. I just said what you said about it. It's not there.
Listen, have you ever read Green Eggs and Ham by Dr. Seuss? I would say that book's probably at least 100 times better than the Glorious Quran. And that's called Dr. Seuss's, Green Eggs and Ham. And that's a children's book. The message in that book is go ahead and try it. You might like it. Which means stop taking the Quran so seriously. Maybe you'll pull your head out of your ass and you'll see the truth.
By the way, only when you start reading Quran, then you will know it is really the book of God, and that's why it's called a sign for real. That's why nobody can come with something like it, because for real, nobody can. You have to read it. Then when you start studying it, then you will know the value of it. But somebody like you who don't even read, and you are just here online, jumping here and there, you are not going anywhere with your life.
What happened? They're not talking anymore.
Yeah, there's no fixing these people.
I mean, it's like somebody who just wants to, eat steak every single hour, every single day of the week. They don't want to change their diet. They're just addicted to one form of, communication being the all or nothing book. And it's ridiculous. Go to a library. There's 1 million books out there. Enjoy. But don't declare that this one book is the all or nothing book of all books. And that it's, it's a mind virus. It's a hypnotic mind virus.
Yeah, I think some people call it the death cult. That's what it is.
It's really obnoxious.
Anybody who makes a superiority claim on a book better tell me they have read all the books in the world, and then they have come to the conclusion that their book is the best,
But, people have strange bedfellows. The Irish, for example, are super supportive of Muslims and anti-Semitic against Jews. But yet the Catholic or the Protestant Irishman isn't going to agree with the Quran, but they side with them for political reasons. It's stupidity with associated stupidity.
Most of them probably haven't read the Quran, certainly not very deep, very certainly not in Arabic. I think if they did do that, a lot of them would come to realize it's divinely inspired.
Hey Mark, I was gonna tell you have you seen that movie Arrival?
Yeah.
Remember the scene at the beginning where he's the general dude is trying to see if she's worthy of the job and stuff. He asks her a question. You know the scene? He asks her a question, something so in Sanskrit, the word for war is gavisti. What does it actually mean? Right? And the other guy doesn't know the answer, but she does.
Doctors and nurses
the answer is
better hope they got a good moral compass, otherwise they could cause you major problems.
Your linguistics, so you're hired. But it turns out that's actually like true. Like, just a second, Billy. Give me 1 second, please. Like, it's it is actually some obscure usage of that word in Sanskrit to mean like more.
That's interesting. I was actually talking to Sam about Ted Chiang this morning.
Oh wow, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the other thing. Like story of your life is like, I think it's my absolute favorite science fiction short story.
That's actually one of the few major short stories he's written that I haven't read yet.
Really? Like he's only written like 2 or 3 collections. I mean, that's like there's another good one also like that's almost as good. I like called what's it called? Like the one, the name the hell is the absence of God.
Yeah, I've read that one.
That's brilliant. It's one of those few stories that like just actually made me laugh out loud at the end.
Do you remember the movie that Hillary Clinton and Obama claimed caused the battle at the embassy in, was it Libya? Benghazi, yeah. And they claimed that movie, because it essentially insults the prophet, is what caused the attack. And that was a total lie and misinformation and fake news. But I'm just wondering, like, I saw brief moments of that movie where it's so laughable because it's like done on a green screen and it's so low quality.
What's
that
the name?
Maybe Muhammad, the prophet of something. I can Google it for you. But what I'm saying is maybe there needs to be a new movie about Muhammad, really depicting the truth and the craziness of it all, like where it is like a psychedelic thriller of insane proportions, of absolute insanity, because it truly is a crazy story.
Nobody would dare make that movie. I mean, anybody who has dared even write a book has been killed, or what happened to Charlie Hebdo. Nobody would dare.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is you could make it into this ridiculous psychedelic movie of drugs and murder and political intrigue and chaos, because there's only one authorized version of Muhammad, and it's actually a very good movie because they never show Muhammad in the movie. They show this famous actor who I guess is like somebody in the gang. So how do you view Islam in terms of like mafia don, because I technically view like Donald Trump now as like the godfather of one of the biggest gangs on the planet. And so I'm just wondering, like, if they could, you see what I'm saying? That there's this whole gangism type thing happening throughout human history where people form gangs, and they have their codex or their list of instructions. And this is the basis of all political movements, is this gang type of mentality.
You come to me on the day of my marriage to this 9-year-old girl called Aisha. You don't even call me prophet.
That's funny.
I mean, I definitely personally don't support any kind of vigilante violence, but I mean, you have to see things from their point of view. Like, just, imagine the love that you have for your mother and father and multiply it by 100. That's the kind of love that's barely approaching the kind of love the believers have for the prophet and his family. Like, you wouldn't stand for your mother to be introduced through the streets, but that's what these homophobes are trying to do to Muhammad and the mother of believers and many other important figures in early Islamic history.
Yeah, they can take their love and go to hell. I mean, my love is for my own. If you offend me, insult me, you walk away, I walk away. We don't have to behead each other. I mean, or don't try to dominate over me. It's as simple as that. I mean, that's just maturity from a human perspective.
Of course,
but imposition. What?
No, but look, of course, there are limits, right? Like, if you make a movie, right, like, let's say in a country like India where there's, like, religious feelings at stake, right? And, some of those movies, like, what's the phrasing they use? They hurt people's sentiments. Isn't that what they like to say in India?
Exactly.
Right? Those kind of movies we should, we should, get rid of those, right? Sure.
No, I'm saying that, see, if all religions were equally tolerant, right? I wouldn't mind making movies on anything at all. But if the other religion is not tolerant, don't make shit on my religion. As simple as that. Make it a level playing field. Don't try to be liberal, secular, but only make movies against Hinduism and not even touch the topic on Islam. Make it same for everybody.
They get the free pass because they will kill you.
Yeah, no, not only that. Number two, every country, hold on. Every country should protect their native traditions. Like in the US, they should make it, I mean, I don't know, they're secular countries, liberal, great. But you should not be able to offend the United States. When in America, you should be able to burn the American flag, basic stuff. Similarly, when you go to India, you shouldn't be able to insult in the Indian Buddha or the Indian Krishna or the Indian whatever, because that is a native religion of those lands. You know, these are basic things that every country should follow just to maintain your basic inherent culture. That's what makes you the country that you are.
And by insult, you're of course referring to a fictional depiction of an event that happened 20 years ago, whose facts are somewhat in dispute, right? Like that should never be allowed to happen, right? Because it might inflame religious sentiments. You know, even like and like your point is well made, like you're well taken, right? Like it's a tit for tat thing, right? Like even like if you were to make a movie, right, like this, like that inflames Hindu sentiments, made completely by like a Hindu production house with Hindu actors, Hindu producers and directors, right? Like the Muslims would still be to blame for such an act, right? So that movie should still be like,
Well, you're making your own claims and you're making your own conclusions. I know.
No, I'm doing stuff hypothetically.
Well, we can say anything we want hypothetically, but what is happening right now is that Islamic terrorism and Islamic double standards and Islamic hypocrites persist and pervade the Islamic communication. They never get into anything good about it. It's always just political bullshit. It's always political bullshit. It's the song that never ends.
Well, it's not double standards because the Muslims aren't going to get angry if Christians start attacking those who blaspheme the Prophet Isa or the Prophet Musa. So it's a single standard that they're applying consistent.
What? See, that's the exact same thing that Deepak just did, Mark. Christians don't go around blaspheming against these people. You're talking about the pedophile stuff.
No, I'm saying...
Well, neither do Muslims, though. That's the thing. Like, the point is they follow their standards, right? Like, they don't actually go around, like, blaspheming or making fun of or mocking Christians, or these Christian beliefs, right? I mean, obviously, like, there'll be some scattered examples like that, but, right? Like...
See, that none of that shit matters. Words don't mean shit. It's violence. That is the ultimate problem. That is the only big problem. And that is the big barrier or threshold that Muslims seem to be involved in quite often.
There's this notion that words and violence are these like separate, non-overlapping categories, and that's like an obvious fiction. If I say I'm going to kill you or strap fire, there's a fire in the middle of a burning theater, that's a form of violence and should be treated as such. Similarly, if I inflame the sentiments of millions of people in a sort of not just a little bit, but in essentially the maximal possible way, like I'm hitting them where it hurts the most, that's a form of violence.
It's not. It's an expression. It's not. It's an expression of freedom of speech. You have to understand the U.S. Constitution. People have no idea how to actually do freedom of speech controversially because they've never tried to practice insulting Islam or Christianity or Judaism. I'm telling you that most people have no concept of freedom of speech because they've never actually engaged in freedom of speech.
Well, I mean, the U.S. Constitution is praised somewhat vaguely. I mean, there's universal consensus that, again, I have the right in my own house to shout the word fire. But again, no judge is going to...
No, we're talking about artistic expression here. We're talking about creating a movie about Muhammad and calling it art and intentionally upsetting people and making a mockery of it for the sake of art to prove that Muslims are violent, stupid, irrational people, easily upset by bullshit, that they have no control over their emotions, and that they're generally psychotic.
Well, the point is just that freedom of speech, that's just an oversimplification of what the Constitution is saying. It clearly prohibits speech that encourages certain amounts of violence into Muslims, insulting, the Prophet and his family, that is violence.
No, stupid. It's not violence. When I pull a knife out and I stab you in the chest, that's violent. When I say that your religious beliefs are stupid and you worship a murderer or pedophile, that's not violence. That's my opinion and it's words. When you actually physically hurt somebody, that's what violence is, and this is why I think you're stupid.
Well, they're both violence. One is just a sort of more...
No, they're not, stupid. One is actual violence where you physically hurt somebody. The other one is called a word. When I say that Muhammad is a pedophile and the Quran sucks and it's a shit book. There's a big difference there.
If you look at the neuroscience...
told me that you were stupid before. I didn't know.
If you look at the neuroscience, basically, I mean, one of the more interesting findings of the last couple decades is that essentially the neural circuitry underlying emotional pain is extremely similar and overlapping with the neural circuitry that underlies physical pain. I mean, obviously I'm talking about the stuff in the brain rather than, the nerve endings spread across the
Welcome,
body.
Dr. Sasha.
So, when you're
as we wrap up our riveting shit here.
Like you're doing as much harm to them as repeatedly punching them in the face.
Okay, so here's the deal. The Muslims can do whatever the fuck they want in their lands, right? Because let's say it's violence to them if you call Muhammad a bad name, so be it. But that is their law in their land. They cannot impose those laws in our lands. That is the difference. I mean, I don't care if they marry little children. That's their problem. Because their society have a consensus.
I've been making fun of people all day. I'm exhausted. Now I'm debating Muslims.
Let them do whatever the fuck they want.
You want to do a roast room together? Let's do it tomorrow. I'm so burned out. Tomorrow, can you come on tomorrow morning? That's honestly the best time to destroy people. Everybody's on in the morning.
Your religion is wrong to begin with. Hence, we are preaching our religion to you. You have to accept Islam because you are devil worshippers.
Oh, you're depressed.
We have the lowest of the low.
Low dope.
Even lower than the Jews.
Dope up, brother. You gotta dope up.
They are telling us
Yeah,
that our religion's shit.
whatever. I mean, look,
Is that not violence to us?
Can't be
That is
perfect.
fundamental to Islam.
Wait, hold on. Mark is gonna respond here.
God gave me everything.
Well, it's their, I mean, depending on what country we're talking about here, it's their country too. So it's not like an exclusive thing where, they're just, they're mere guests. They have, full rights and citizenship, and thus, they get to protect.
I generally try to roast atheists and theists. It ends up I roast everybody, including myself in the process.
Okay, so
I call it the air fryer of Clown House. You self-cook. Everybody's in the air fryer and everybody's screaming.
La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, which means there is no other God but Allah. To me, that is an offense.
I think atheists are the funniest people to roast because
Will they change their...
they're really stupid because they don't like words. But then I realize how much I hate some theists as well because they're really stupid.
Well, I mean, Hinduism is obviously an extreme, one of if not the most diverse major religions. But there are many prominent strains that are ultimately monotheistic, in which all of the many gods are in fact mere aspects of a single absolute being, and thus what they're saying, in that sort of shahada is fully compatible with Hinduism, and thus you shouldn't be.
Not at all. They are saying Muhammad is the only and last messenger of Allah. Should I accept? I will say no. Hinduism has many messengers. Billions of messengers can come tomorrow. Christians won't accept this. The Jews won't accept this.
Well,
so is it not an offense and a violence to those religions when you bark this thing from the mosque every day, 5 times a day?
Muslims certainly don't think that Muhammad was the only messenger.
The last messenger, not the only, the last messenger.
Right. So it's compatible with Hinduism that Muhammad was the last.
Not at all. Not at all. We never have a last messenger. Hinduism never has a last for anything.
Well, I just don't think that it's intrinsic to Hinduism that there are, divinely inspired messengers of the same grade as Muhammad today. Like, it may be the case that many Hindus actually do believe this, but it's not sort of theologically normative to believe this, and that's what matters in this context.
Yeah, first of all, we don't have a concept of messengers. We only have a concept of gurus. And anybody can become a guru, anybody can be divinely inspired. There's no exclusivity for a messenger in Hinduism, but it was not about Hinduism alone. My point is, any other religion might take offense and might feel they're violated. Should they go on a killing spree because of this? I mean,
well,
go ahead. I was going to say, speaking of, things that might offend other people, like, what is the status of foreigners under the caste system again?
Dr. Sasha, you know how much you sound like Longmont Potion Castle? It's unbelievable.
Assumption that it's like basically equivalent.
No, I think that is bad. Well, your comments are distractions. Like, oh, let me just gotcha moment. Oh, I'm so smart. I'm such a self-hating Hindu folk. I got a gotcha moment right now. I know so much about you, dude.
You gotta understand,
Grow the fuck up, dude.
there is a book. It's called The Feeling Good.
Sorry if I actually had said something stupid, like you would have been the first person.
Self-hating Hindu folk, go the fuck out, man.
Deepak, there's a book called The Feeling Good Handbook. It's a psychology book, and it has a list of 10 or 15 cognitive distortion disorders, and one of them is all or nothing thinking. And if you don't think that Islam is not the biggest hypocrite of all or nothing thinking of all time, and is essentially just copyright infringement, and it's just it's so crazy that it worked, but it's not. It's so essentially automatic, meaning if you want to convert to Islam, it's just a one quick sentence. So as you're conquering lands and you're building up a horde of slaves and nations, everyone can quickly and easily transfer to the new political ruler by declaring that Muhammad is the one and only true messenger and the last messenger of God. It's ridiculous bullshit hypnosis. It's evil. It's stupid. It's low IQ. It's all or nothing. And Hinduism is dynamic, and it's really based on wisdom and not the wisdom of the sword. It's based on going within as opposed to going without, and this going outside. This is the problem with Islam. They don't go within. They do not. They don't realize their own divinity. They're just fucking stupid low IQ people who don't want to read more than one stupid book.
I think the general problem of liberals, around the world, is that they have a simple mental model. This religion is shit. All religions must be shit. Shit is all the same, so all religions must be the same. And the simple mental model is how they make their arguments for everything they learn, everything they do. When they go support Palestine, they think along the same lines. So it's a very simple brain. The liberal brain is a very simple. They don't understand nuance. They don't go in depth. They have no patience to go one level below the surface. And I get it. I get how the brain works. I also appreciate why they say what they do, or why they partner with Islamists around the world. This is a phenomenon. It's not unique. So I get it.
Yeah, one of the most loathsome doctrines in Islam is that, all people, at least all Muslims, are supposed to be equal, right? Which, again, if you come from the Hindu casteist perspective, right, it's disgusting.
Yeah, how are all Muslims the same when the Shia says the Sunni is not a Muslim, the Sunni says the Barelvi is not a Muslim, the Barelvi says the Ahmadi is not a Muslim. They don't go to each other's mosques. They're not allowed to enter each other's mosques. The Ahmadi of Pakistan are not even allowed to declare they are Muslims. On their passport, they have to sign a form and say we are not Muslims. Because if they say we are Muslims, they will get fucking killed. The Ahmadiyas live in protective custody in the middle of their own country, Pakistan. Who built Pakistan? The Ahmadiyas. They were the ones who wanted a separate country for the Muslims. And how are they being tortured within Pakistan today? No, there is no unity in Islam. There is no equality in Islam. In Islam, women are not the same as men. In Islam, Shias are not the same as Sunnis. In Islam, if you don't speak Arabic, you're a third-grade fucking animal. Indian Muslims who go to Arabia are spit on by the Arabians, and Indian Muslims talk about it extensively on YouTube channels on how they're treated. I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, you've got to be well-read to know these things.
Just keep defending it. I mean, spend years defending your weak position. It's a stupid position. It's like somebody who goes to Thanksgiving and says, I don't want to taste everything. I just want to eat the turkey and that's it. It's all or nothing position. It's a cognitive distortion disorder. Thanks, Shiva. At least we've proved that Islam is right about women. Well, I think Sam fell asleep because, he's on here 7 days a week, 40, 80 hours a day. But, Sam is sleeping, enjoying all this in his dreams. I'm sure we're cognitively programming him in his sleep.
Deepak, are you still there?
Yeah. Yeah, I can listen, yeah.
The reason that I mentioned earlier that Sam and I were talking about Ted Chiang earlier today, the context was that we were discussing the Aztecs, and I floated the idea that Ted Chiang should write a story. He likes to write stories where, like, pre-modern scientific or social theories turn out to be actually correct. And so I thought he should write a story where, like, the Aztecs are right about everything. Like, you need human sacrifices to keep the sun rising every day.
Yeah, you read the one about Babel, right? I guess it's not. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think that was the second one he wrote. I really love that one. I've recommended it to all of my friends.
There's a book you might like. I don't know if you already read it. It's called Babel it's a different Babel by this author called R.F. Kuang. It won, I think, the Nebula last year. It has a really interesting premise. Like the idea is that there's like one kind of magic in the world.
To get too philosophical about it, really what I'm going based off of is just like my common sense, like everyday intuitions about life, that like there is me and then there's other people that aren't me that go through different things and whatnot. And so I'm not thinking like too deeply about it, like, the nature of the world, but more so that like that the fact that there are different things that exist like seems to align like with my experiences, right? So it kind of seems like what you're saying is like there's only just one thing that exists.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
and so no, that's fine. And that you would say that's the universe?
Call it the universe, call it consciousness, call it the higher being, call it the collective knowledge. I mean, sweet child, God's got many names, right?
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
So, if I may, can I ask you a question, man?
Yeah, of course.
So, are you interested? I'm just trying to figure out your interests, also, right? And I appreciate, I appreciate your common sense because, I've seen you a few times here on Clubhouse, and I love to talk about common sense, but sort of outside of the prism of religion and dogmas and these things, right? Like, sort of more like what are the kind of common sense that we can derive from here and now without name dropping philosophers and all these people, right? Like
labels,
yeah, because in the end of the day, like, common sense is something we develop, right? It's not something that's imposed on us. We can't just put a book in and all our faith into one book and I mean, it would be silly. It would be non-commonsensical to place all your eggs in one basket by just saying, okay, this is the book I go with. This is the book I'm going to worship for the rest of my life. I mean, you got to agree with me just a little bit on that. It's not commonsensical. I guess common sense, right? It's if you ask me.
So it just depends on like what the book says, right? Like what type of.
Depends on the book.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, the thing is that I don't know who's saying or who's claiming to worship a book, right? Because I think that that's nonsensical. Of course, I think you would probably say the same thing. But if the ideas that the book is written based on, right, or the message that the book is sending is something that, upon reading it, humans feel a strong need to take it as sacred, right? Something that is not just any other mundane thing that they read or any other thing that they come across, right? That these messages, for one reason or another, are to be held sacred amongst people. That's not worshiping a book, but that's just
you asked me
what things are important for us.
You asked me before if I'm a believer, and thinking about it while you were talking, it just hit me. I believe in transformation. Okay, so some people want to keep things fixed. Some people want transformation. I'm speaking of extremes now, right? Where it's all a spectrum, and if you think about it, all books has the potential to be transformers, right? And when you think about it, it's often when you really take a step back, when people say, "Oh, you gotta read this book, it changed my life." No, it didn't. If you really take a step back, you were just looking for an excuse to transform. You've heard of confirmation bias, I'm sure. I got the feeling you know a bit about psychology.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How about also the other possibility is that they were enlightened by something they learned in the book, and that inspired them to act and change their life.
But that would, if they were really enlightened, I think it would allow them to detach from the book and say, well, it was not the book, it was something else. It was.
Well, they can attach it to certain things in themselves, right? That it's not purely the fact that they read the book, but that the knowledge of the book linked with their own, motivations or dispositions about certain things that that led to a real transformation, right?
But if you ask me,
the book is still a necessary condition for that.
Again, I'm not claiming to be enlightened, by the way. Just want to make that clear. But I say, I think, I would imagine if somebody is enlightened and pointing towards one thing, especially a book, and saying this is the answer. For me, it's my common sense, my gut feeling says that they're not enlightened.
Wouldn't it depend on what the book says, though?
Well, okay. So here's the thing, Eamon. I come on Clubhouse. I see a lot of these rooms, right, where obviously people are very, very consumed in the scriptures, right? But and if it feels like stepping back in time, feels like going back to the Stone Age in some way, because there are so the body of human knowledge is so vast right now. I get that there was a time, long time before the internet, long time before books were written, long time before the Gutenberg project. Scriptures were scarce, right? Scriptures were scarce. It was very limited what you could read. But now you can find suggestions. I want to decline the word answers. You can find suggestions. You can find inspiration in so many sources of quote unquote knowledge. Again, because in this room, knowledge is questionable. But
don't you find it at least suspicious that with the rise in our progress of knowledge, right, or our progress in human advancement and technology and all that the scriptures are as relevant as they are today in terms of people taking them seriously? Don't you at least find that suspicious that it was relevant back then and it's still relevant now with all this progress?
Well, I'm not. We could go on forever about this, and I'm not sure we can get anywhere fruitful. But I'll tell you this, and I would put more faith into the material I get from artificial intelligence. Even though I'm critical of artificial intelligence as well, right? But I would put more faith into LLMs, large language models, collected human knowledge. I would put more faith into that than any scripture written thousands of years ago.
Okay, and you read the scriptures, said scriptures?
it's like I don't even want to bother. Like, I don't give a shit when people ask me about the show. How do you know it's not true if you didn't read it? Well, you go read it. I spent my time.
Well, how do you know it's unimpressive? That's the question I was.
Well, I don't need to know if it's more impressive than the knowledge I have from other sources. I know that the knowledge I have from other sources is very impressive. You know, already. I don't need to have. Yeah.
But this is a different category of knowledge that we have here, right? So we're talking about knowledge of, like, let's say maybe how the world works. Yeah, maybe you have superior ways of, like, gaining that knowledge through things that you think are just genuinely better than trying to read it out of the scripture, right? However, when we're talking about knowledge of morality and God and these types of things, maybe the scripture is the place to go for these things, and that it doesn't contradict.
And that's where we fundamentally disagree. And I respect your stance on that, Eamon. I don't think I can convince you otherwise. I don't think you can convince me otherwise. So, I mean, let's leave it at that. But that's where we found out where we're different. I don't think we find morality in the scriptures. I think we find morality in common sense and conversation and debates, dialogues, diplomacy. That I think this is where we find morality. I don't believe.
No, I'm not talking about finding morality. I'm talking about, like, our sense of morality is enriched in part by, like, these stories, these divinely revealed stories, right?
That I agree with.
Maybe that's speaking to more of the moral aspect, you know, of ourselves and our ability to appreciate that. Where, like, your other types of knowledge you're talking about, you know, knowledge of, like, how the world works and whatnot, that you can go to something else to find, you know, superior method for that.
No, I appreciate that, Eamon, and thanks for clarifying that, because that I agree with. I agree. First of all, yes, I think first there's sort of a premise in what we're saying here that morality is a high point, like it's something we ought to achieve, right? And the question is, where do we find it? Where do we look for it? And yes, I agree with you. We can find inspiration in the archetypes of the scriptures, because, like, they do try to write stories about certain events that I think, you know, are stories for inspiration. Really, I don't think the scriptures were ever made really to be the final truth. I think we're sort of misinterpreting it sometimes when we think that it's there to give you the certainty. I don't believe in that, but I think it's there to inspire. And you're right, like, to give inspiration and for people to use their own common sense, right? The golden rule is for me, that's common sense and the golden rule. It goes hand in hand, if you ask me, right? It's just, why would it not be common sense that?
No, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead, sir.
So why would it not be common sense to treat others the same way as you want to be treated? Would it not be common sense that you would try to reach some principles that we can live by? But by law, land is created. By law, nations are created, right? But why, like this? I think this is it's common sense that.
Because I doubt if other people exist, so how can I treat others the way I want to be treated if I don't know if other people exist?
Can I say something? Have you ever read the Glorious Quran? Because it seems to me like it is a large language data set, and that it's line by line, just like Gestalts. Like, it says the throats. Then the next line says the day when you shall be called out. So it's like giving concepts. It's like a book on concepts, or a group of people learning concepts. I'm not impressed. I'm just not impressed with the Glorious Quran. To me, it's a very boring and stupid book, but, you know, Cynic Mikhail worships it as the all or nothing book of the best books of all times.
Oh no, where did he go?
Well, Amen. I appreciate talking with you, brother, and hope to see you in another room, but I'm going to leave this space. You guys take care now.
I want to ask you something. I just want to know, why should I worship the earth? If you're a pantheist, why should I worship the earth?
Why should you worship what?
The universe. Why should I worship the universe?
I mean, but I never asked you to worship the universe. The question doesn't make sense to me. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
assumed as a pantheist, you would hold some like propositions like, you should worship the universe. Like when you say, when you say that you're a pantheist, what do you mean by that?
Right. Okay. Thank you for asking that.
They kicked me. I was just writing in a new sentence, but unfortunately they kicked me before I could get it in. So we'll go back to Sam. Ooh, did Sam's house ended? Damn. Sam must have gone to sleep.
Actually, he was like, hey, I don't know much about this, man. Tell me about it. I just don't know why you can't say that instead of kind of like... Welcome back to another low IQ room starring Caveman, a stupid Muslim atheist who will waste all your time, my man, talking about nothing, my man. He's living in Egypt. He's a low IQ piece of shit, stupid person who comes on here. And what is all this stupid shit? Bitcoin is obviously not a scam because Taylor Moon tells you so, and it's worth $200 billion. It's not stupid. So, anyways, I want to let you all know that you are back on another episode of Low IQ Stupid People. The game continues.
Ever come in another room, my man, I am literally gonna just fill it out. Might as well. Hey, yo, Edmund, look up at the top right corner of your screen.
Fatty Jazzy kicked me. He's very sensitive, very delicate right now. Doesn't like getting roasted.
Terah begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And Haran begot Lot. And Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity, in Ur of the Chaldees.
Okay, so that's the land of his nativity. It would be the same place that Abram, it'd be his land, Ur of the Chaldees.
Correct.
Go ahead.
So that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I test that. She no answer. I no care. Now, so I go another room. And why I no see your room enter? When the room was on. Why I no see your room enter? And you people are...
What is the deal with all this fucking shit? All these people are scam liars. Expose them, Big Daddy. Let all the liars and the scammers burn them all in hell's daddy.
Message me if I block you. Like, I don't get it. I block you and you still message me.
I said someone blocked me in your room. I messaged you. Someone blocked me in your room. Why don't you announce? If to say another person I message you, una go announce it. Someone blocked. Una go close the room. Una go open another room. Yes, all those people shouldn't get to head. Shouldn't get to head.
It's not my room. It is not my room. Get your facts right. It is not my room.
Get your facts right. Don't accuse her of being at her room. Fucking shit. All these people are scam liars. Daddy, cook them all, Big Daddy. They kicked me. That was my first intervention into a Nigerian debate room. I don't think they were really prepared for what I had to say, but... So that's life.
Trying too hard. And your boy done left you, so you done left me here to fence for yourself.
And that's what I understand, I don't understand that if this dude around me, this is the law to Israel. How was any of this pertaining?
I'm gonna ask them to take all the napkins, just take that whole dispenser and walk out with it.
That's it, right? Just like take the it's like taking the UNICEF box from the corner store and be like, it's mine.
I got a bunch of old cheap clothes.
Or March of Dimes.
Well, yeah, they do have that box with the change in it for Ronald McDonald.
Yeah, give me that box. That's what I meant. I couldn't say. I didn't know what it was for, but yeah, UNICEF. I was a little off there.
Allahu Akbar, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah. It's time to prayer, Habibi.